Take the exit. Turn right into the drive-thru.
Nope, I'm making dinner tonight.
You don't have time. Josh has practice.
Oh, that's right. I'll just get a salad.
And fries?
No, just the salad.
But salad cancels fries.
Salad only.
Fries.
Salad.
Fries.
Food noise isn't fair, but Mochi Health is. The affordable GLP-1 source that puts you on the road to successful weight loss.
Hey, can I get the...
Fries.
Salad. Sorry.
Learn more at joinmochi.com. Mochi members have access to licensed physicians and nutritionists. Results may vary.
Hey everybody, just with another Three Geeks conversation. I have Destiny and Josh with me. How you doing, Josh?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing good.
Well, you come to us as an editor extraordinaire. Can you tell us what got you into editing? Was it just the love of filmmaking, or?
Well, it was a very, very long time ago. And basically, I started out in high school doing TV production, or back then it was just video production, making video projects instead of papers for classes and stuff. And my school, lucky enough, had a little broadcast studio. And back in the day, we got one of the first Media 100 editing systems, which was just when, video editing was coming out. So I got, an early experience into, nonlinear editing and getting away from tape to tape stuff. And then from there, being able to get my hands on that kind of equipment early on just kind of helped add to that spark and gave me kind of an edge moving forward in college and everything else when no one else has ever touched nonlinear editing before.
And for folks listening, and probably for myself, when you say nonlinear editing, what do you mean?
So nonlinear editing is just the process of editing. It's the term used for if you're not using tape to tape or cutting on reels, and you can basically edit in a non-linear fashion. You can edit the end first and then go back to the beginning, and you can edit the middle and then redo the top and redo the back. Back before that, you had to record a piece of media to a tape and then record another piece of media next on that tape and keep going. So if something changed down that line in the beginning, you kind of had to start all over again, or, do different versions and footage would degrade and not look great. So you kind of had to work in a linear fashion. So nonlinear editing is kind of like the beginning of the computer editing time.
Got you.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Well, you've got a impressive resume as far as like things you have worked on. I mean, do you have a favorite thing that you have worked on?
Oh yeah. One of my favorites, and it's something that was very early on, was Ninja Warrior, which has obviously grown into quite the
incredible show.
Yeah.
Incredible show.
And when I tell you what it was like when I edited on it, you wouldn't recognize it because it's definitely changed. I was back in the day. I was working at a network called G4. It was the video game network.
Watch it all the time.
Yeah, and it's currently off the air now. They tried to do a resurgence of it, but didn't work out. But when I was there, I was working in the acquisitions and development department, and they brought this show over from Japan called Sasuke, and it had been running for 25 years, and it was one of the most popular shows in Japan. And it was just running an obstacle course. It was 100 people running a course and trying to get through 4 different levels of the course. And nobody had done it to that point. No one had finished all 4 levels because it wasn't an amateur competition show. It was for real athletes. And so we licensed that footage and kind of reshaped it into a different show in the United States. So I got to be part of that original concept of what is now Ninja Warrior. But that the first few seasons, it was footage that they shot in Japan, and we took it and repackaged it, put it on graphics. It was all in Japanese. That
voiceover work was incredible. I died every time I watched that show.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you, but
no, it's great. So and we went from voiceover to doing strictly subtitles. So, and that was a choice that was interesting. We weren't sure how that was going to work. But it was popular, just keeping the Japanese audio and just subtitling in English. And then also it spun off. It got popular. We started building courses here in the United States, and G4 became under the umbrella of Comcast and NBCU, and that's where the new version of it, which is the American competition, it has grown from. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun just kind of developing that show. And we didn't know what they were saying. It was in Japanese when we got it. So, picture me, I'm sitting there trying to subtitle this show, and all I have is transcripts, and I'm like, I think he's saying it here. And, no one knew otherwise.
It adds to the charm of that show for sure. People didn't expect accuracy. They just wanted to see people fall down.
Like, let's be honest,
Just the entertainment.
No one knew if we were right most of the time anyway, unless you were a Japanese speaking viewer, but majority of the people didn't speak Japanese.
Very true. I guess since you got that from Japan, you never kind of got to get on set and run a course yourself.
No. And that's kind of the life of an editor, is that you don't generally get to be brought along on the fun things. You're stuck, in the edit bay, in the dark room, the cliche dark room, cutting the footage, waiting for them to bring it all back. They went to Japan, as it was getting big here. They sent the team over to Japan to, they were like, okay, you can bring an American to run the course and kind of integrate it that way. So they had a whole team go over, and all my producers were over there, and I'm just like sitting in LA, just waiting for the footage to come in while they're all having a great time in Tokyo.
Oh, man, that stinks.
Yeah, but what you sign up for.
Yeah. Very
Yeah.
true.
Now,
Sorry, Jess, go ahead.
No, I'm good. I was just thinking about the obstacle course in American Ninja Warrior or Ninja Warrior. Did you, as the editor, get to say who you're going to follow? And because I assume it's shot in so many different clips and pieces that you can kind of make a linear path in terms of a story. But how do you choose the person you're following? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This person falls in course 3 or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's the basic of editing. It's the story. You see whose story. You have the producers that are kind of, it's almost like the original reality show where they kind of have an idea of who they want to bring in, what stories they want to, latch on to. And so you go with that kind of direction. But, as things edit together, you realize some people are more, they're better on TV, or something cuts together better, or they go further along. And you kind of make that decision as you go, because they're shooting all of it. This is why I say it's almost like original reality TV show, whereas, they were shooting everyone's full run. So you can focus on somebody's complete run, or you can focus on, a piece of them and go on to somebody else.
Yeah.
Well, that's very different from other shows that you've got to edit, like Divorce Court and Paternity Court. I imagine they still have that level of entertainment, though. Kind of what's the process with those like?
Yeah, those are a different beast. You get a lot more creativity on the competition shows where you're showing, somebody's backstory, you're doing packages of their backstory, the home life, things like that. And then you get to, these court shows, court dramas, which are more planned out. They're shot, they're not scripted, and contrary to what a lot of people believe, they are real people. Sometimes somebody sneaks in there that's an actor and gets through the filters, which has happened. There was one guy that ended up on like 4 different court shows before anyone caught on. It was like he's just on all of them.
So funny.
But it's it's more you basically you got to hone your technical skills for those shows. It's less about the story. Well, the story's there, but it's less about the creativity of the story, and more about the technical aspect of getting through it. And they're a volume show. We shoot and edit 180 plus episodes of those court shows a season. So you got to crank through it. You got to realize what you should spend time on and which ones you shouldn't spend time on, and just keep moving through them. And you hope for a tight shoot when it gets to you as the editor, but it's the difference between something that's super creative versus something that's more technical.
Paternity Court won awards, right? You and your team won awards for that show?
Yeah, Daytime Emmy. I think they won 2 years in a row. I don't know in a row, but they it's it's their own category, the daytime talk category. But we beat out Judge Judy and all the big names that you know.
That's a big deal.
Yeah,
it was exciting. Got to hold the Emmy and everything. It was great.
Well, that's always fun.
when you're on the cutting room floor, like I'll mirror this to our podcast stuff because I do a lot of the editing for our podcast. Like I usually have a gut feeling for like our shorts. Like I think this will do well. Do you feel that way when you're editing like one of the shows, any of the shows? Like, oh, compared this one to the other one that did really well, like I feel like this one will do well with the audience. Do you have that feeling as the editor?
Like specifically on the court shows or just any editing?
It can be anything, but I was kind of picturing the court shows in terms of like, since it's so formulaic, I would imagine like the story inside of it has to be like really good if it's all
yeah. I mean, absolutely. You start realizing, you know, what people respond to the most and what gets, you know, the most reaction. So you focus on that, and if that part of their story is something that that might get more views or draw people along, or you know that'll be good for a promo, you know, out there. Then you focus on that. You know, they when they shoot these, they're shooting 30 to sometimes 40 minutes of footage, and we're cutting it down to 16 minutes of actual content when you break out commercials and promos and all that. So, you know, they might have 8 different story beats of you know, why they want to get divorced. And then you have to kind of pick which ones make sense, which ones track, and which ones might not even matter, and kind of go with the most salacious, you know, entertaining stuff.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. Speaking of kind of picking and choosing those things, when you worked on Hoarders, were there ever any that you just couldn't air? Anything that was just too bad?
So luckily I never got to or never wanted to go on one of those sets because I would not want to be there. Yeah, you know, any of those things that you see blurred are blurred for a reason. And it's, you know, unfortunate. It's because these are real people again.
Yeah.
They're not, you know, they didn't just dump stuff into somebody's house and say, let's shoot it. These people live that way. And, you know, there's blurred out, you know, deceased animals and, you know, bathroom situations that, you know, you can't even imagine. And it's tough editing those, just because, you know, they're real people and that's how they've lived.
How they lived. Yeah.
And then, you know, you get to see it unblurred, and you get to see the realness of it. And it can be tough sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, I imagine it could be.
I have to ask, and at least I'd like to. Did you ever get a chance to do anything with Peyton Manning? I'm from Indiana, so like the Colts are kind of a big deal in my home state. So I was like, I saw his name, I was like, there's a chance. He does a lot of voiceover. So
it was a fun show. You know, they shot all of his wraparounds at a studio nowhere near Georgia. I don't know if they're in New York or LA. I can't remember off the top of my head, but we didn't get to be around the actual shoot of that. But it was one of those fun one-off best of shows, and it was just happened to be hosted by Peyton Manning. And it was just like each episode was, you know, the top 10 of whatever the category was. The show itself was fun because, you know, you get to see the top 10 of, you know, race cars or, you know, top 10 inventions of all times and kind of create some fun story around that. And then, you know, you get to watch Peyton Manning do his, you know, walk-ins and stand-ups. So, never got to meet him though. I did meet Tom Brady once on a commercial.
Equally as cool. Yeah, for sure.
I was an intern in Boston, working at a commercial company, and it was right after his first year, won the Super Bowl, and he got the big Cadillac endorsement deal, and he was in the studio doing commercial, and I was a lowly PA at that time, so, you know, wasn't allowed to talk.
Go in the corner, Josh.
Yeah.
Still ready. He's over there. I mean, I grew up in New Hampshire. I went to college in Boston.
Oh, I bet you were dying then.
That was
man.
That was a good time.
Yeah.
Well, you kind of started. I think we talked briefly about it when we were messaging. I kind of started in like LA and stuff, and now you're here in Atlanta. Go Georgia. What was that like journey for you? Like, especially in the industry. I mean, a lot of it's still there, a lot of it's here. So what was that journey like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I could start from the wee beginnings.
Go for it.
I was in college. So I've lived in 4 major cities for production or post in different various ways. Starting in Boston, I went to Emerson College, which is a film school based there. Graduated with TV and film production. Bachelor's. So I was there for, the 4 years, which is where I did my internship and ran into Tom, because we're besties now. Yeah. And the college had a program out in LA because we were focused on film and television production, radio and acting. Acting was a big major at the school. We kind of had satellite office in LA. So what most kids did was they did the last semester, senior year, in LA at their satellite program, doing the internship and finishing their last, credits. And then they'd stay because, it was Hollywood. That's where you needed to be. I followed suit. I did that. I was there for my last semester. And then, I went back to the East Coast when I graduated for a few months. I think it was mostly because, my parents were in New England at the time and they didn't want me to, I think they were in Jersey. Yeah, they were Jersey at the time. They didn't want me all the way on the West Coast. So, I pretended I was coming back and I wasn't staying there. But I did 2 months in New York working Dateline, NBC, 2 or 3 months there. And then I was like, I got to go to California, got to go to LA. So, packed all the bags, drove the car cross country and was there for the next, 12 years or so. From there, 12 years later, I'm starting a family. I have my daughter. She was born on the East Coast, but then we moved back on the West Coast for the first 2 years for her, and realized it was difficult with family there. Well, without family there, yeah. And wanted to move closer to them back on the East Coast. And a former producer I worked with was in New York at that time. And he was working on a talk show. And this was back in the Maury kind of crazy antic talk show era. And it was a brand new one called the Bill Cunningham Show. And he knew I was trying to get back East. And he said, hey, if you want a spot on the show cutting, then come on out. We took that opportunity and moved outside New York City and worked there for a few years on that talk show. That wrapped up and, had to get in the freelance world and bumped around in some shows here and there, and then got on Dr. Oz. And Dr. Oz was another stable show, another daytime talk show, but more informational, less the craziness of getting in fights on the stage, that crazy stuff. And was there for, about 2 years. And this is how the industry works. It's all connections. It's all networking. Yeah. One of the people I worked with on Bill Cunningham Show was down in Atlanta doing a court show, paternity court, and it was brand new. And they were, bringing editors in to work there, temporarily because the tax incentive was going on. It was, it was new then, and they were just bringing editors down, and I had some downtime, so I was like, oh, sure, I'll go to Atlanta. Back and forth with the family. They put me up in an apartment, and I was going back home every other weekend. Did that. I cycled between that and Dr. Oz. So Dr. Oz, and then that wrapped for the season, went down to Atlanta. Did that for 2 years, and realized that, we weren't really New York City people, and Atlanta was better weather. And growing up in New Hampshire, I've seen enough snow that I'd ever want to see. So we were like, let's get out of New York, New Jersey, and head down to Atlanta. And at that time, it was, it was really booming as far as the entertainment industry down here. Yeah. The TV production, film production, the studios were building sound stages everywhere. Marvel was crazy. Walking Dead was everywhere. There were zombies. I mean, it was a great kind of place to be. And, we decided to give that a try. And as I'm, down there, as I'm part of that, the first 2 seasons coming in and out, and I'm seeing this growth, I'm just kind of noticing that, it's definitely a place that's going to be like Hollywood, but it's before it becomes big. And you kind of have the chance to make it, kind of not make it what you want it to be, but kind of influence it. You have the ability to now be part of that growth and be part of the direction it goes in. And that, I thought that was interesting. It's like being in Hollywood in the 50s. it's established, but it's growing, it's going different directions, and you get to be part of that build out.
Is that kind of what led you to create the Atlanta Editors Collective?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Atlanta Editors Collective was is a group that we founded just before COVID. Me and some other post folks, and then COVID hit. Everything shut down. There weren't any networking. There was no meetings or anything like that. The people I started with moved on, and then we got out of COVID, and I still had kind of the basis of this group formulating, and we realized there was no better time to kind of revamp it and bring it back out, because when COVID, not really ended, but when it kind of, it opened back up again and people could be face to face and meet up, we realized that's what people needed the most. You were stuck in basements and networking on Zoom and Slack for years, that, we needed an excuse to get out and do something. So yeah, we created this group, and it started with a social meetup once a month. It was strictly not, supposed to be networking, not business cards, just come hang out, chat, meet people, have a beer, talk about your dogs, talk about your kids, talk about shop if you want, but you don't have to. And we've been doing that ever since 2022. And we haven't missed a month yet, knock on wood. We're going to keep doing that. But yeah, and it's just grown to be, we're now the largest group of post-production professionals here in Georgia and the South. We have members that are outside Georgia as well, but our focus is Georgia and the major cities that have the tax incentives and the infrastructure already built out. And we basically, after we got past the social aspect of it, we realized that productions were coming down here. They were shooting, and they were shipping all the footage back to LA or New York. And there were plenty of talent and infrastructure down here to keep post-production, but they didn't know where to find us. They didn't know where to look to find talent and the infrastructure. So, that brought on the awareness side of the Atlanta Editors Collective. If you need anything post-related, we could, if we don't have it within our ranks, we can connect you with the people that do. And because of that, we work with a lot of the major post houses down here in Atlanta: Moonshine Post, Smart Post. We work with, the other groups like Georgia Entertainment, Atlanta Film Society, and just it's the community of it. And that circles back to that whole idea of like seeing the industry at its infancy and being able to now be part of that growth and push in the directions that you want. We saw that need of post-production not really being represented down here. So, it gave us that opportunity to fill in that void. Better way to put it.
Yeah. No, that's incredible.
For sure. Do you have some favorite like speakers or like conversation points you've had over the course of the years you've done it? Like, is there like, oh, that's a good month or whatever? You know what I mean? Someone keeps coming back and talks and things like that.
Yeah. I mean, for the social aspect, what I like most about it is just seeing some of the younger folks coming in. And I know it's not a good time right now. The industry is definitely tough. It's probably the worst I've ever seen in 20 plus years. And I feel for some of these young folks coming out. And so we try to do, seminars and opening those meetups for them to come out and just network. And then also, like I said, the seminars or speakers will come out to talk about, we had one a few months ago that was the legal side in posts. So if you're, with AI coming out and being a big part of it, people were asking like, hey, I'm the editor and I'm putting it in. Where's my liability? Should I be worried if I'm putting in AI created music? And where does that land for me as the editor, or do I not have any, it doesn't affect me or not? So just those questions. We did a VFX for editors workshop where we had a VFX editor come in and show us what that process is like. Not doing the VFX, but doing the VFX for the edit. So putting the temp stuff in, coordinating with the VFX studios and getting that footage in and then building it all together. So being informational in that part.
what would you suggest if I'm brand new coming out of college, wanting to be as an editor? I'm like, I would like to do that. Is it building that network more than anything?
How much time do we have?
Forever. Yeah, forever.
Yeah, I mean, I'm speaking with a GFA class on Monday too about it, just because it's not an easy time. It's probably the worst time in modern production that to be coming out of college. The job pool and the production has dried up. They're fighting with people 20 years more experienced than they are for the same low paying jobs. And the jobs are coming out slower and slower. So the only real thing that I feel is important to do is to get out there and network. It's never been more important to know people. And I don't mean like I know a guy, but like get to know somebody, be friendly with them, not just, hand them a business card and move on. You gotta, when the job market's so small, you have to be the one that they remember, and people want to hire friends. They want to hire somebody they like to be around.
For sure.
And with that, I mean, it's don't be afraid of all the new things coming out. The creator economy is huge. It's going to be huge. And there's never been a better time to create your own content and edit it and get it out there. You don't need those avenues of getting things out there aren't the only ones anymore. You don't have to bring it to a studio and get greenlit and go through all those hoops. The outcome may be different, but YouTube's right there. TikTok's right there. Use that to your advantage to put something together. I mean, I came out of college and I didn't have anything put on a reel. Student films weren't going to do it back then. So you just kind of hope for the best with a resume. But now, you're coming out, you can have content that you've created that's studio quality. It's about just getting out there and taking advantage of the technologies that exist now.
Speaking of that, like the Post Atlanta conference, we're going to talk about that at least a little bit. That's coming up later this year, correct?
Yeah. So the Post Atlanta conference, this is just another thing that kind of grew out of the awareness of the industry here and Post not having representation that it should. A buddy of mine, a fellow editor, came to me and said, I've had this idea for a Post conference. He does voiceovers as well, and it's a big voiceover conference that he would go to or he knew about, and he's like, it's a big draw and it's important. Why don't we have that here? They have an NAB, they have all those things in other places, and it focuses on the technologies and the softwares, and you get to see all the cool new gadgets and stuff. But there isn't anything post-production focused that just talks about editing, just the community of it, the networking of it, not just showing the new flashy things. So, he came to me and knew that I had this collective and had some connections and some reach with some other people in town. And we started building it out. We were just like, this would be cool if we could do 2 days of this at an airport hotel with, just friends that we can connect with. And, if we can't lose money on it, but so we have to at least break even because we can't afford to lose money. That was just like the dream in the beginning. And then as we kept talking, kept talking to other people, it kind of grew into a real conference. Now we brought partners in, Drew Sawyer over at Moonshine Post. He's partnering with us now and bringing that clout that he has here in town and the people and his connections. We've booked the Plaza Theater, which the Atlanta Film Festival goes out of every year. And they're working with us on the logistics of it. So now we don't even have to worry about the logistics, getting the theaters, the AV systems, the people that'll just take tickets, all that stuff you don't think about. Which is we didn't think about when we were thinking about a conference. We're just like, cool, we want to bring our editor friends in and talk. But then they're like, oh, we need coffee, and you need badges, and you need check-in, and you need tickets, and all those things. So we've hit the jackpot each step of the way with the people that we've talked to and being excited about this whole idea of something and connecting with it. It's the postatlanta.conference.com. You can sign up right now. Tickets aren't available, but you can sign up to get on the waiting list, and you'll be the first to hear when tickets are available. And the date is September 26th and 27th of 2026 at the Plaza Theater.
Awesome.
Yeah, you have speakers from like TV and film. It looks like we have like Cartoon Network, Adult Swim editors, and you have a whole panel that's women in post, which I think is incredible.
Yeah.
As one of the girls on the team. But
it's important. It's definitely important to be represented.
For sure.
And I know, half, at least the first few people I would reach out to if someone said, "Hey, do you have an assistant editor or an editor?" are women. So, I feel like that's changing in our industry. It's male dominated, but it's hopefully changing to be more inclusive. And we want to show that, just like we want to show AI and we want to talk about creator economy and all that, but definitely important to kind of, cover the bases.
Yeah. See, like content creators and the networking.
Yeah,
Mixers, networking coffee.
Yeah, like Art.
I think
David,
those are great.
Art David, big guy from the Matrix, helped develop the bullet system. I mean, it's bonkers. It was game changing for
that's dope.
the industry.
Yeah.
Sean Albertson, he's an ACE member. He's done Warrior and Rocky Balboa. So he's tuned into that that fight scene, that different style of editing that a lot of people gets excited about. Shel Ramos, she's an actress. She's been in Walking Dead, Outer Banks, Hangman. We're bringing her in she's got some of these great connections of working with Al Pacino and some great stories around those and how working in front of the camera connects with the post-production aspect of it. Women in post, Dina Knoll, she's cut Ironheart and Marvel movies, and she's going to be on that panel with us. And it's just exciting. Like we have someone that cut Marvel content that'll be there, and that's like crazy in my mind.
Yeah,
that's crazy. No, it sounds like an incredible event. That's what we were talking about earlier. We're like, we should go to that.
Come on out.
We should figure out a way to get there for sure.
You record a podcast from the lobby. We're trying
happy
to
do it.
I mean,
that'd be incredible. We would love that. Yeah, you just got to come down from Ohio.
That's true.
I'm local. It works for me.
Yeah, it's easy for you for sure. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll make it happen.
A couch somewhere, right? Is this a bed like out of college? Just crash on a couch somewhere.
It'd be fun. Yeah, it'd be totally fun. What's your? And this is my last question, I think, unless Destiny has anything. But what's your favorite thing to edit? Like, I honestly, there's like formulaic stuff, but like, I don't know. Again, like I edit a lot of our stuff, and a lot of times, if I can inject some of my own creativity into it or some type of thought I had, that gets me the most excited about something, rather than like I had an intro, I had an outro, I'm done. You know what I mean?
Right.
About some moms. Like, what gets your creative juices flowing in an edit?
So and this is part of my decision making coming out of college, because I went into Emerson as a film student, and I left Emerson as a TV student, TV production, and I found that I get excited about the short form edits. I don't like things dragging on too long. I like when it's quick and you get to that story, you get to that point quick, and you get to show so much in such a little time. And the craft of figuring out how to do that is always, part of that excitement, because, you never know, like, oh, I got, 90 seconds to 2 minutes to show this package of was something I did for Dr. Oz was, chicken farming. They went to one of those big packing chicken farms. And I had to, get this whole story of what they're doing there and the health of it within, a 3-minute package. And you gotta, it's not easy to do sometimes.
No,
sometimes it's easy. Sometimes it's like, oh, we went to NASCAR. Here's some really fast cars, and that's fun. But other times, you have to tell that story in a short amount of time. And that's, there's creativity in that.
Oh, for sure. Now, the hard outs, do you have a pretty hard out? Is like they give you 90 seconds and you better be at 90 seconds? Or like
no, I mean, so you get a general
time
frame of it. And because when you're working on a show like Dr. Oz and it's in studio live and rolling packages, they can always adjust those in studio live moments if they need to get out quicker or get out shorter. You're given a certain amount of time, like, hey, it has to be about 3 minutes. And then, if it's 3:05, not the end of the world. Cool. Divorce court, you have to be on the button. You can't. Yeah. You have to be on the frame because you're delivering that out, and they're inserting it into their delivery systems, and you have to have the total running time of X amount, and your acts can be different lengths, but the total has to always be that 30 minute block with all your commercial breaks and all that stuff. So there's a little less creativity in that side of it because you're just making sure those numbers hit, but it's a skill.
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
Well, that kind of leads me, like, you've kind of done a variety with like TV, movies, you've done shorts, you've done series. Like, what is the difference in those editing? Like, I don't even know the word I'm trying to say now. Like the process of those.
I mean, I always find the process is the same. Like the base process is always the same. It's just depending on what the genre is and what the workflow is for that different genre that you have to kind of tweak things. But as an editor, everyone has their own way of doing it. You always start with your base. You start with what's the story and the base footage, and whether that's just the interviews, you put that together, and then you go back to your coverage, you go back to your B-roll, you see if that story is still working, see if the coverage still works for that story. That process is always the same. It's the same on Hoarders. It was the same on Nancy Grace, which was a true crime show I did, and even Divorce Court. You lay out your whole show first, and then you go back and you see what works and how what stories fill in correct and which stories don't work, and you kind of have to adjust from there.
Do you have kind of a favorite genre that like you just really enjoy? Just anything.
No,
anything you can edit.
it's it depends on what's I'm in at that time. The true crime stuff is a lot of fun. Especially the ones that work with real reenactments, because you get to do a little bit of both of docudrama or docuseries, and then almost like it's a narrative on top of it.
Yeah.
And I did one show called ATL Homicide, and that was literally a mix of interviews and true crime story with somebody who was telling the pieces, and then they shot actors, not just acting things out, but like dialogue and scripted stuff. So it was a combination between narrative and the docudrama style.
I knew about that. I always thought it was kind of funny that we have enough in Atlanta that we can have our own series about that.
Yeah.
But
I think any city these days could have enough of that.
True. Yeah, no, I think that would be the most fun, where it's like you get a little bit of the truth and then you get a little bit of play. Right.
And I'll say there's something fun about, and it's not like, I guess there's some creativity in it. Back in my early career when I was doing the acquisitions and development, and I was taking other shows that already been produced and kind of fitting it into our time frame and our holes for commercials and all that. And so there wasn't really the story was already there. We just had to kind of fit it in there, but like some of the content was fun. I mean, we did, I don't know if you remember the show Cheaters back in the day.
Yeah, that was incredible.
I didn't cut the show, but it's a good mental break too, to not have to be digging into the script so deep with everything. You get to just play with it and have fun.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, Joshua, thank you so much for having this interview with us. It's been an absolute pleasure. Do you want to tell everybody again about where they could grab tickets for that conference and where they can kind of keep up with you online?
Yeah, postatlantconference.com. That the tickets aren't released yet. They're going to be released shortly, but you can join the waiting list. And once you're on the waiting list, you'll be the first to get alerted when they are available. Because, in my mind, we're going to have, a full sold out conference. So, get in there as quick as you can for the tickets. And there'll be discounted pricing if you get it, 4 months out versus closer to the date. And then that website would also be updating as we get new speakers and fill in the panels and things like that. And we're trying to do a screening of a Georgia shot TV show or pilot. So you'll get all that information will come up. And then the AtlantaEditorsCollective.com. That's the website for the group. And whether you're in Georgia or the South and you just want to be part of the database, and when jobs come through, we use that to kind of help place people. Or if you just want to find out about our events and come out to a mixer, we do once a month. So if you miss 1 month, it's come the next month. Or see any of our seminars. We do, virtual seminars as well as in-person ones. So AtlantaEditorsCollective.com. Or if you're a production and you want a partner and you want somebody to handle your full post-production workflow and take advantage of that Georgia tax incentive, we're still here. Still the best tax incentive in the country for now.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And hopefully we get to see you at the conference in the fall.
Yeah, I hope to see you both there. Definitely come out.
Definitely. Well, thank you guys. Don't forget to like, follow, share, and subscribe, and check out the conference. Check out at the Atlanta Editors, and we'll see you next time.